I remember one time asking my uncle, he was sitting out on the back steps and he just had an argument with my aunt, I guess, and I was talking to him and I said, what is marriage really like? You two have been married 40 years or something like that. What is it really like? And he said, it's like endless compromise, just endless compromise. And I remember thinking, oh boy. And so, but see, conscious living and conscious loving is really all about allowing every moment of interaction to have the possibility of being your spiritual path. That in every moment it's about coming into harmony with the essence of yourself and the essence of your partner.
And one of the things that we noticed early on in our relationship, and that we talk a lot about to people when we're considering the possibility of living and loving consciously, is that we noticed that we would run into what we began to call an upper limit, that when we were feeling really good and in close harmony, we would do something to bring ourselves back to a more familiar level. And we began to call this the upper limits problem, that people would feel good and then they'd have an argument and then they'd feel bad and then they'd dig themselves out and then feel good again and feel close, and then someone would forget an agreement and then they'd feel bad, and then they'd dig themselves out again and someone would forget an appointment. And so this process of feeling good, feeling bad, we began to challenge that and began to wonder about what it would be like. In fact, we made a commitment to find out what it would take to live our lives in expanding waves of creativity and expanding waves of harmony so that we could feel good and then integrate.
And not have to go through that down trough. I mean, people will argue with us all the time. People will say, oh no, you've got to have that you've got to have arguments, you've got to have fights in order to have some passion in the relationship. And that's like saying you've got to have car crashes in order to have a nice drive. And it's not really true. And so we made a commitment, actually, about, well, 2 or 3 years into our relationship, we made a commitment. We committed ourselves to try to find out if it was possible to have a relationship that ran on positive energy and didn't have those dives. And it took us a few years to figure out how to do it, but it's probably been 10 or 12 years now where we haven't had any kind of conflict or a cross word or a critical word, zero, over the past 10 or 12 years at least. And that's really quite amazing. You know, I never would have imagined that, because I come from a family where there was a lot of fighting, arguing, criticizing, that kind of thing. So the idea of creating a relationship where that doesn't happen is a very radical thing to do. You know, it's like designing a car that never needs to fill up at the gas station.
And one of the things that we noticed is if we were not criticizing or arguing or in power struggles, then we had an enormous amount of free energy. And we began to look at, and this is something that we ask people also, if you were not involved in conflict and your conflict was resolved, what would you be doing with all of that energy?